Deep in the quiet woods of England, a hidden house held a secret that was about to explode and change the royal family forever. Everyone thought they knew what was happening behind the palace walls, but a shocking leak has now shown the truth to the world. It all started when Prince William decided to go on a trip that no one expected. He went to a very private and lonely villa that he owned. This house was far away from the big palaces where the king and queen usually live. Most people never even noticed this house was there, but it was a very important place to manage. William did not send a message to say he was coming. He did not bring a lot of guards or make a big scene. He just showed up for a quiet look around to make sure everything was okay. What he found was much bigger than anything he thought he would see. While he was walking through the house, a man who had worked there for a long time got very nervous. The worker accidentally told William a huge secret. He said that Tom Parker Bowles, who is the Queen's son, had been coming to the house all the time. Tom was acting like the house belonged to him and not to the royal family. William did not get mad or start yelling right away. Instead, he stayed very calm and kept his feelings hidden. He chose to watch and wait. He wanted to see every little thing that was going on. Then one night, Tom threw a giant, fancy party at the house. He did not have permission to do this. Suddenly, the doors swung open wide. Prince William walked inside, and he was not alone. King Charles was standing right next to him. The room became very cold, and the music stopped. All the people who were smiling and laughing suddenly felt very afraid. The real face of a man who thought he could never be caught was finally showing. Everyone began to wonder what Tom was really hiding. Was William preparing to tell the whole world the truth? Was he getting ready to show how much power he truly has? The sky over the English countryside was filled with a very thick and gray fog. It was the kind of fog that makes your bones feel cold. It hid the very old trees that grew around the lonely villa. This house belonged to the group of lands called the Duchy of Cornwall. It was one of the houses that people talked about the least. Usually, it was only used for short trips or for important workers to stay in for a night. For Prince William, things were different now. He was the future king, and he had a lot of big jobs to do. He felt that he had to watch over every single inch of the land he owned. He wanted everything to be clear and honest. Since he started running the Duchy of Cornwall in 2022 after his father became king, William had a very strict rule. He wanted everyone to do the right thing. He would not let anyone use the royal houses or money in a way that was not fair or honest. He believed that the royal family should always set a good example for the people of the country. William got to the front of the villa without any loud noises or big groups of police cars. A shiny black Range Rover drove slowly and stopped on the small rocks of the driveway. When Prince William stepped out of the car, he looked very calm and strong. He was wearing dark clothes that were good for being outside. For him, this was not just about looking at a house. It was about protecting the good name of the royal family. He knew that people across the country were watching and being very critical of how the royals spent their time and money. He wanted to make sure everything was perfect. As he walked into the main hall of the house, he looked at everything very closely. He had the eyes of a man who wanted to be in control. He saw tiny stains on the rugs. He noticed that the chairs and tables had been moved in a way that did not look right. He could tell that someone had been living there and moving things around. In the middle of the room, there was an old worker named Arthur. Arthur had been cleaning royal houses since the time of the late Queen. He was a very loyal man who liked the old ways of doing things, but he was always a little bit afraid of important people. When he saw the prince stand there, Arthur was so surprised that he dropped his cleaning cloth. His old hands were shaking because he was so confused and scared. William looked at the table and saw empty bottles of very expensive wine. This wine was not supposed to be in this house. William did not say a word. He just stood there and looked. His silence made the room feel very heavy. Arthur could not handle the pressure anymore. Because he was so nervous, he accidentally said the truth. He told William that Tom Parker Bowles had been visiting the house very often. This news made William feel like he couldn't catch his breath for a second. Tom Parker Bowles is the oldest son of Queen Camilla. He is a man who writes about food and likes to have a lot of fun. Since his mother became the queen in 2023, Tom's life had changed a lot. He did not have a royal title, but he was invited to all the fancy parties. The news always showed pictures of him at big events. Some people in the royal family were not happy about this. At the end of 2024, some people even said he was using his mother's power to help his own business. This was something that William really hated. He felt that no one should use the royal family just to make money for themselves. Hearing that Tom was using this private villa made William very worried and upset. Arthur told William more stories about what Tom was doing. Even though Arthur was stuttering because he was scared, he described a man who thought he was better than everyone else. Tom did not just stay at the house like a guest. He acted like he was the real owner. Arthur said that Tom was often very rude to the workers. He would tell them what to do and get angry if they did not bring him fancy things right away. Sometimes the security guards tried to stop him because he did not have permission to be there. But every time they tried to stop him, Tom would use his mother's name. He would say that Queen Camilla said it was okay for him to be there. He used her name like a magic key to get whatever he wanted and to break all the rules. William thought about the promises he and his father had made to the people of the country. They wanted a royal family that was modern and honest. They wanted to be responsible with the things they owned. Letting someone like Tom, who was not even a royal by blood, use a royal house as his own playground was a big insult. It was an insult to the way William wanted to run things. He had worked very hard to build a system that was fair. Deep inside, William started to feel very angry, but he did not yell or lose his temper. Instead, his face became very cold and he looked even more serious. He knew that if he moved too fast, it could cause big problems with his stepmother, Queen Camilla. But he also knew that Tom had gone too far this time. When the car door closed, William did not say anything to his driver. He just looked straight ahead out the window. In his mind, he was already making a plan to find out more secrets. He had found out one big truth, and he was not going to let it go. His silence did not mean he was giving up. It meant he was getting ready for a big fight. He was preparing for a storm that was coming soon. He knew that things could not keep going this way. He was going to stop it, no matter who tried to protect Tom. He was determined to make sure that the rules were followed by everyone, even the Queen's son. After he left the villa, Prince William went back to his palace. He was very quiet, which was almost scary to the people around him. He did not call any emergency meetings. He did not yell at the people who managed the villa. Instead, he sent a very private message from his office at Kensington Palace. He sent it to a small group of helpers that he trusted very much. These were the people who watched over the money and the security of his lands. William sat at his desk for a long time. The light from his lamp made his face look very sharp and serious. He had made up his mind, and he was not going to change it. He was going to get to the bottom of this mystery. In the next few days, many reports started coming to his desk. William spent many hours reading every single page. He looked at the dates and times very carefully. He noticed something very strange. Tom always went to the villa when King Charles was away in other countries for work. Tom was being very smart about when he went there. He was not just stopping by to say hello. He was acting like he owned the place on a regular basis. Even though there were security cameras and alarms, Tom seemed to know how to get around them. William gripped his pen very tightly as he read that Tom was telling the cooks to make giant, expensive dinners. He was even drinking the private wine that belonged only to the royal family. What made William the most angry was how the managers of the house acted. They were too afraid to stop Tom because he was the Queen's son. They were so scared that they did not even put his visits in the regular reports they sent to William. This meant that Tom was creating a secret world inside the royal family where the normal rules did not count. William could imagine Tom walking through the halls of the house. These halls belonged to William's family history. It felt like Tom was stealing that history. The problem was not coming from people outside the family. It was coming from someone who was allowed to be on the inside. This felt like a betrayal. One report was even more upsetting. A security officer had recorded Tom's voice. In the recording, Tom was yelling at the staff. He told them that everything in the house was allowed for him and that they should never question his power. These words hurt William's heart. He believed in rules and being fair. He felt that the royal lands were not just gifts for people to use for fun. They were tools to make sure the monarchy could last for a long time. In his quiet office, William stood up and walked to a large map on the wall. He put his finger on the spot where the villa was. He was not being weak by staying silent. He was like a hunter waiting for the right moment to catch his prey. The room was very quiet, except for the ticking of a clock. William closed the file, and his eyes looked as cold as ice. He knew he needed one more piece of big evidence. He needed something so big that no one could hide it. Not even the Queen could say it was okay if the evidence was clear enough. He could see the signs that things were wrong, and now he was planning his next move with perfect timing. He was waiting for Tom to walk right into his trap. He wanted to make sure that when he finally acted, there would be no way for Tom to escape the truth. One afternoon, the sun was shining through the windows of William's office. He was looking at more photos that his team had taken from far away. The truth was now very clear. Tom Parker Bowles was not just a guest. He was turning the house into his own private club. He was doing things without asking anyone from the Duchy of Cornwall. William looked at a photo of Tom standing on the balcony with a drink in his hand. Tom looked very happy and proud, like a man who thought he would never get in trouble. Tom had even started moving the furniture and ordering luxury items to be delivered to the back door so no one would see them. The more William read, the worse it got. Tom was not just going there to be alone. He was starting to have big parties with very rich friends who liked to break rules. People could hear loud music all night long. The lights were always on in rooms that were supposed to be empty. This was a direct challenge to William's power as the boss of the estate. Then a loyal guard sent an urgent message. Tom was planning his biggest party yet. He had invited famous people and big investors. These were the kind of people the royal family usually stayed away from to keep their image clean. Most importantly, the guard said that Tom told everyone his mother, Queen Camilla, said it was okay. When William heard the words approved by mother, he felt a sharp pain of anger. He wondered if Camilla knew what her son was doing. Maybe she was letting him get away with it, or maybe she didn't realize how bad it was. Either way, it was a huge problem. William stood up and started walking around his room. He was not just watching anymore. He was the one in charge of the whole game now. He did not call Camilla to argue with her. He did not send a letter to Tom to tell him to stop. He wanted to handle this in a way that would make sure it never happened again. He told his special team to get ready for a secret mission on the night of the big party. Outside, the wind was blowing hard and moving dry leaves across the grass. William had made a very tough decision. He knew that showing the truth would cause a giant fight within the family. It would be like an earthquake, but he had to protect the honesty of the royal family. He was ready for whatever happened next. The truth was right in front of him, and he was going to bring the story to an end. He closed his folder and fixed his clothes. His eyes were as sharp and cold as a metal sword. He whispered to himself that it was finally time to end this. The night of the party was very loud and bright. The quiet villa was now full of colored lights and thumping music that could be heard through the woods. Many expensive sports cars were parked in the driveway. It showed just how much Tom wanted to show off. Inside, the air smelled like smoke and expensive drinks. Tom was walking around and laughing with a big smile on his face. He felt like he was a prince himself. He showed his friends the old paintings and the fancy furniture. He talked like he was the one who owned all these treasures. He even bragged about how easy it was to get the managers to do what he wanted because of his mother. But right when the party was at its loudest, a cold wind blew through the room. The big wooden front door was pushed open. Prince William walked in without anyone saying his name. Just seeing him made the music stop instantly. No one laughed anymore. William looked like he was carved out of cold stone. His eyes moved across the room and saw all the mess. But then Tom saw something that made him feel sick with fear. Standing right next to William was King Charles. The king looked very tired and very sad. He did not look at the famous guests. He looked straight at Tom. The room was so quiet you could hear the wind outside. William stayed in the background for a moment. He wanted his father to see exactly what was happening. He wanted the king to see how the royal house had been turned into a messy party spot. The king was very angry, but he did not yell. You could see his anger in his tight lips and the way he held his hands behind his back. He walked around the room and looked at the trash and the cigarette ash on the expensive rugs. Then he stopped right in front of Tom. Tom, who had been acting so brave, now looked very small and pale. He tried to speak, but he couldn't find the words. William stepped forward and changed the feeling in the room. He was very decisive. He put a large folder on the table. This was the same table where people had been putting their drinks. William did not care who the guests were. He only cared about fixing the rules that had been broken. Tom stood there like his feet were glued to the floor. He looked around for someone to help him, but all his friends were already leaving. They did not want to get in trouble with the king. William moved very close to Tom. He looked at him with a lot of disappointment. He hated that Tom had used the queen's name for his own fun. The party was over, and it was now time for Tom to face the truth. Later, they were all in a serious legal office. The air felt very heavy and hard to breathe. This was not a public court, but it was a very serious royal meeting. Prince William sat at the head of a long table. He looked very calm, but his eyes were like ice. He watched every move Tom made. In front of William was a big pile of papers. These papers showed everything Tom had done wrong. They showed the fake bills and the names of the workers Tom had bullied. Tom did not look like a fancy socialite anymore. He was slumped in his chair and his hands were shaking. He kept looking at the door, hoping his mother would come to save him, but no one was coming to save him. Queen Camilla was not there. Tom was all alone. William slowly opened the folder. The sound of the paper was very loud in the quiet room. William did not even look at Tom at first. He just looked at the rules of the royal land. He tapped his pen on the table over and over. This made Tom feel even more nervous. Tom tried to say something to defend himself, but he stopped when William looked at him. William was too powerful and serious. Tom just lowered his head and tried to breathe. He knew he was in a lot of trouble. The evidence William had was too strong to fight. There were no papers saying Tom was allowed to be at the house. William even had letters from the managers of the house. They were finally telling the truth now that they knew William would protect them. They told stories of how Tom had used the Queen's name to get his way. When William pushed a paper toward Tom for him to sign, the room felt like it froze. The paper was a confession that Tom had done wrong. William's eyes were locked onto Tom's eyes. He wasn't screaming, but he looked very disappointed. He looked like a man who was defending his family's honor. Tom's hand was shaking as he picked up the pen. There was sweat on his forehead. He knew that if he signed the paper, his fun life would be over. He would lose his special connections and his ability to use the royal name. In William's mind, this was not just about punishing one person. It was about making the royal family better. He wanted to get rid of the old way of doing things where people got special treatment just because of who they knew. He watched Tom sign his name. It was the moment Tom's world fell apart. When it was done, William closed the folder and stood up. He did not say anything nice. He just walked out and left Tom alone in the dark room. The next morning, the sun came up over the villa, but the party was gone. The house was quiet again. There were now regular security guards at the gate to keep people out. Prince William stood on a balcony and looked down at the driveway. He did not feel like a winner. He just felt very serious. He knew he had done something very hard, but it was necessary. He had to perform a kind of surgery on the royal family to keep it healthy. Tom was now facing the consequences of his actions. A public apology was written and sent out to the world. Tom's good reputation was gone in one day. All the friends who were at the party did not want to talk to Tom anymore. His business in the food world was ruined because people realized the Queen would not protect him anymore. He was banned from ever going into any royal houses again. This was a very shameful thing for him. At the palace, things were very tense. Queen Camilla had to deal with the problems her son had caused. William made the rules even tighter now. He made sure that people who were not royal by blood could not use the family's money or houses anymore. Even Camilla's power was a bit less than it was before. Everyone had to follow the new, clear rules. King Charles stayed quiet during all of this, which showed that he agreed with William. It was the end of the time when people could hide their mistakes. William walked down the stairs of the villa and touched the wooden railing. Everything was clean now. The mess from the party was gone. He felt the silence of the house and knew that order had returned. He knew that his relationship with his stepmother might be broken for a long time, but he also knew that being a good king meant putting the crown before his own feelings. He was doing what was best for the country and the future. Before he left, William stopped at the front gate. He looked at the royal symbol on the stone pillar. He had already signed a new plan for the house. It would not be a private getaway anymore. Instead, it would be a place for history that the public could visit. This was the final way to show that royal property was not a personal toy for anyone to play with. The prince got into his car and drove away. As he looked in the mirror, the villa got smaller and smaller. He looked ahead with a very strong heart. To him, power was a big responsibility, not a gift. The story of Tom Parker Bowles would be remembered as a sad and dark time for the family, but it would also be a lesson for everyone. It showed that there are boundaries that no one should cross. It showed that dignity and honesty are the most important things for the royal family to keep. Now that you have heard this story, what do you think? Was Prince William right to be so cold and tough on his stepmother's son? Does this show he will be a very fair and good king in the future? Or was it a clever move to show everyone that he is the one in total control? Please tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see more stories like this one. You can also click on the next video you see on your screen right now.